Parashat Vayakhel Pekudei and Para, cow. Yes, it's three of them. It's a big one. So it says in our Parashat Vayakhel Moshe, and why do we say this parasha? Because it says Va'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. In Shmot Lamed Hey, this which is our parasha, it says, but in Shmot Chavchet it says Va'asu li mikdash. V'shachanti betocham. So in Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael it says, Shomeh ani ben chol ben Shabbat. Talmud lomar Vayakhel Moshe sheshet yamim ta'aseh melacha. Bechol velo b'Shabbat. That is during the week, but not on Shabbat. Ta'aseh melacha. Siyat melacha. Right? Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe to build the Mishkan, I would have said, Ta'asu li Mishkan, so do 7 days, go ahead and build it. Don't stop until you're done. But it says no. What else? Machilta, what? The Rabbi Ishmael said, right? Yeah, I thought it said something else. So it says, no, Vayakhel Moshe, sheshet yamim ta'aseh melacha. Only 6 days you're going to do. We should be aware that there is both a Gadic and halachic connection and correlation between Shabbat and Halachat HaMishkan, as Chazal said, and we find it all over Masechet Shabbat and many other places. And from the mixture of this parashiyot of Tzibui Shabbat, commending on Shabbat, as associated with building the Mikdash, Chazal of course learned that whatever is mentioned in the Mishkan in terms of Melacha, or was associated. What's wrong with me today? That kind of Melacha is asur to do on Shabbat, and this is of course the basis for the Lamed Tet Melachot, Avot Melacha, different 39 different skills, should we call it, or what's so funny? That we are not allowed to do with Shabbat, of course, which is based on whatever was associated with building the Mishkan itself. However, it seems that there is, if we get beyond this point, it seems that there is or maybe the root of associating the Mishkan with Shabbat, as Chazal saw it, is that building the Mishkan was in a way the final act in creating the world. Okay? It sounds a little strange and weird to us, but it is something that was left for us for perfection of the world. As it says in Bamidbar Rabbah, Perek Yud Aleph, it says, She'ad shelo hukam hamishkan haya ha'olam rotet. Until the Mishkan was built, the whole world was, shivering. Misheukam hamishkan, since the Mishkan was built, nidbases ha'olam, already sat down and was established, and okay, now we can go on. And that is a very interesting point to do. Therefore, so on the 7th day of the Shvi'i, that Hashem was shovet from Melacha, which is the initial Melacha, the creation, the Melacha of creation, of building the world, so we have to be shovet from our Melacha, which is, our job is finishing up the necessary procedures that needs to be taking place in creating the world and establishing the world as a functioning entity, a complete apparatus that goes on. For example, similar to the concept of a child that we do 7 days, and then the 8th we do the Brit Milah. Now the child is called complete. It's very interesting, almost like a Zen kind of concept, right? When you remove the Orla, then the person becomes complete. Right? So, of course, the question that should be asked is, what is the difference between the mitzvah of Avodat Hashem throughout the Mishkan? I mean, afterwards they build the Mishkan, and therefore the Avodah, the worshipping of Hashem was done through that. In other words, when they broke the korban, they brought the incense, and if Moshe needed something, and of course he will go to the Aron HaBrit, what would be the difference between doing the Avodah in the Mishkan to the sin, the capital sin of worshipping Hashem throughout the golden calf, throughout the egel? I mean, one might say, they really, listen, what difference does it make? They worship Hashem through the egel, and now they worship Hashem through the Mishkan. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's a good, valid question. And after in Parashat Truma and Tetzaveh, at the beginning of Parashat Kitisa, we are commanded to build the Mishkan. Really, if you look at it, right before the description of what happened in the Egel, then all of a sudden there's the Tzivui on Shabbat. So it goes like this. In Prakim Chafhei and Lamed Aleph, right? We have the commandments of the Mishkan and Shmot. Then we have in Lamed Aleph, in Psukim Yud Bet and Yud Zayin, we have the Egel. And then, right after that comes the Shabbat. I'm sorry, right after that the Shabbat, it's in Lamed Aleph, Yud Bet, and Yud Zayin, there's the Inyan of Shabbat. So after the description of the Chet of the Egel, we need to understand that the process of kapara, of atonement, and the mitzvot that were generated as a result of that kapara, of that atonement, there's a certain order and logic in it, and this is what our parasha starts, but our parasha starts with another tzivui on the Shabbat, and after that there is the description of building the Mishkan. So if we're going to look at the order of the parashiyot, it's going to be like this: Mishkan, Shabbat, Egel, Shabbat, Mishkan. Again, Mishkan, building the Mishkan, then there is Shabbat, Egel in the middle, then Shabbat and Mishkan. So we have, of course, the Egel in the middle and the reverse order in the beginning, or opposite order in the beginning and then the end of that. So it teaches us, in the proximity of the parashiot was more than just there to teach us about the Shabbat and its halachot. It's more than that. Because for that, we could just have a parasha or a whole list of commandments on Shabbat, and that will be it. Oh, it's enough. Zachor v'shamor et Shabbat. Keep the Shabbat and so on and so forth. The 10 Commandments, one over there, and we'll be fine. But there is something else more than that. That proximity of the parashiot, beyond teaching us on the Shabbat, comes to teach us about the essence of the difference between the Mishkan and the Egel, and of course, something great for us personally to learn. Because before we ask the question, what's the difference between worshiping Hashem through the Mishkan or through the Egel? So that's the Inyan. Now, when through that teaching us of the difference between worshiping Hashem through the Mishkan and to the Egel, also the existence of the mitzvah of Shabbat could also serve as a different or another criteria to the difference which separates between the avodah of the man himself, when he's doing something for himself. Come, hello, how are you? Haven't seen you in a million years. Between when a person does to avodah to himself, or what we call avodat Hashem, a true and honest avodat Hashem. Rabotai, I'm going to tell you something. It might be controversial, but nothing is new. Don't bang the camera, Sam. People might think there's an earthquake. There are many people who so-called do or keep Torah and mitzvot. Ari, why don't you sit here? I haven't seen you in a long time, at least. There are many people who do Torah and mitzvot. However, there are people, when they keep the Torah and mitzvot, they do it for themselves, they don't do it to Hashem. And you need to understand that. You need to understand when you do the mitzvot, you're not doing anybody a favor. By all means, you're not doing any favors to God. He doesn't need your favors. And that will change once you realize that, the whole attitude and the way you do the mitzvot, or you approach yourself with doing mitzvot, or will live your life as a Jew. You're not doing anybody a favor. The favor is all yours. It's being done to you by allowing you and giving you the authority and the permission to keep mitzvot and to paskin the Torah. Look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a tremendous, obligation, a tremendous chance. The Torah is Torah Shamayim. However, when we learn, He allowed us to paskin halacha, or determine what the halacha is according to how we understand it. And that will be the halacha like God said it. Of course, it has to be according to the laws that were handing down to us. But do you understand the magnitude of something like this? Now you understand the problem of making a mistake or twisting the halacha to your benefit or somebody else's benefit? You understand what does it mean to be loyal to the principles of halacha, whether you like it, you don't like it, whether it's convenient or not convenient to you. It's a tremendous responsibility. That's why I don't understand people that says, okay, I learned enough, it's time for me to move on. To move on where? Where are you moving on? You have to learn. I don't know what to tell you. I would hate to think what will happen when a person comes to Shamayim, and then the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, look what you mangled my Torah. Look what you did. Look at the heterim you find for yourself, or the crooked ways you were thinking to bend my Torah for your benefit. Who cares? I didn't give you permission for that. What are you going to say? I don't know. It's frightening. What are you going to say? So what is it? Let me give you a parallel, a very common parallel that they use. It says a father, there was a father, one day there was a father. He went traveling, and he ordered his son to plow his field, to work his field, and he allowed him to have parnasa, to benefit, to make a living out of the field. But you work at it, and you can make a living out of this, right? In a case like this, it's going to be very difficult for us to determine if the son is that working or plowing the field is it doing so because of his father told him out of respect and to his father, what his father says, or he's doing so and he's behaving like it is his own personal possession, and by doing so basically gozel, stealing from the field. That's what we do. However, if the son would prevent from working the field during certain time, only because his father told him, right? We know for sure that working the field, when the son is working the field, he's doing so because of what his father told him. For example, the father told him, every 7 years, I don't want you to work the field. So the son worked in the field for 6 years. On the 7th year, he did. Now we know that the son is working the field all the 6 years with his father's instruction in mind. And by the way, that's also for your Shabbat. You might call yourself a Shomer Shabbos, a God-fearing person. When it comes to Shabbat, you find any reason in the world to be Mechalel Shabbos or to find loopholes. Whether it's kosher switch, which is not kosher. If you don't believe me, go to Machon Tzomet in Israel. Right? There are engineers and rabbis that all they do is make innovations for Shabbat and halachic things. They say absolutely don't use it. So if they say don't use it, I don't care what anybody says. They say it's a mistake. And what they write there is very strong. They said is rabbis that, with all due respect to them, don't really went down to the bottom of things to understand, and they're just shooting stuff from the hip. This is not our world. It was given to us on a loan. So is to your Shabbat. When you keep Shabbat, do you find loopholes? Do you try to find... You understand why I don't like loopholes, because there's something wrong about it. Years ago, somebody told me, there's the kosher shrimp, it's like the imitation, what you call it, kani, there's kosher crab, kosher shrimp, and it looks like, some of them actually look like shrimp. So somebody told me one time, says, I don't eat this. I said, why don't you eat it? It's kosher. It's just a shape. He says, you know what? I'm kind of cheating myself, making it look like shrimp, like I'm pretending I eat a shrimp. Like something was wrong with it, and I didn't understand it. I didn't want to agree with him. I gotta tell you the truth. I didn't want to agree with him. I said, I don't know. I think you're going crazy. 2 years ago you were eating shrimp like there's no tomorrow. All of a sudden now you don't want to eat a kosher. He said, yeah. But you know what? I understand what he was saying. And I tell you the truth, to a certain extent I agree with him. To a certain extent I agree with him. Why do you have to make it like shrimp? I don't know, make it look like goldfish. I don't know. Why do you have to make it look like shrimp? What's really behind this? And 95%, if not more, of the avarot that people do is because of the attitude to do mitzvot. So, building the Mishkan could have also been derived from the will of the person to really fulfill himself, right? To feel tremendous spiritual feelings, spiritual elevation, shanti, whatever is gone, whatever comes to you, However, progressing the state the world is, finishing its creation, also could become, in this matter, a tzivui, kiyum tzivui Hashem, establishing and fulfilling what Hashem told us, or the other way around, could become actions which would be described and would reflect a selfish need in the person to act for himself. I see it many times. I don't care anymore. I've seen it many times where people cry about kiruv. We like kiruv. They don't care about kiruv. They're using kiruv as an opportunity to raise money for themselves and to push their own agenda. They don't care about the people who care kiruv, whether it's today or tomorrow. They don't care about them. For them, it's a way to make money. Or some person says, I'm coming here to make the agendas, to fix things. You make me chief rabbi, I'll show you who it is. Why? So I can rub shoulders in a who and who of nowhere. It's your own personal, self-fulfilling, motivation. You're self-propelling yourself. You're not interested in doing the right thing. You're interested in pushing yourself. That as nice as you say, I'm doing for Torah. You doing for Torah? I mean, you're actually speaking for themselves, that you don't. I love these people. I love my community. Meanwhile, you tear apart the whole everything. You leave burnt field behind you. You see it all the time. I care about kashrut, but I care about the money more. We see this all the time. You need to examine yourself as well. When you do what are you doing it for? What are you doing it for? You think that you're doing God a favor for teaching his people? You think you're doing God a favor for coming to shul? You think you're doing God a favor for taking care of his people who got strayed? You think you're doing God a favor? Yes, you do think so. And because of that, you're allowed to do whatever you want. You're allowed to cheat, to steal, to rob, to rape, to molest, to abuse, all in the name of God. So therefore, I don't understand what's worse than you than some Allah Akbar jihadist. You're doing horrible things in the name of God. I don't see the difference. So, it seems like the point that we designate between these two possibilities, as we said before, building the Mishkan and building the Egel, and so as to ourselves. We now let's take this out, and now we'll talk about ourselves. We are busy building a Mishkan inside of us, or we are building Avodah Zarah inside of us. We're building an Egel. So the point that would do so is the willingness of the person to stop his actions because it's Tzivui Hashem. And that's Shabbat. And that's Shabbat, Rabotai. Again, remember, we said in the Parashiot this week and last week Parashiot, we have Mishkan, Shabbat, Egel, Shabbat, Mishkan. Now let's see how much you're willing. Right? You're building buildings, you're making money, you do it. Shabbat you don't. You're saving people's life. You're a doctor, I don't know what, you're a podiatrist. Shabbat you stop. Okay, if you have Atzalat Nefashot, you're Atzalat Nefashot. If you're busy saving somebody's life, even Safek, you save his life. But once you're done saving his life, well, now it's Shabbat like anybody else. You don't continue now. Oh, imagine this, a doctor saving somebody's life, right? Okay, Baruch Hashem, he saved his life, sent it to the hospital, called over Yafeh. So now that he's done with this incident, so let me smoke a cigarette, you know. I'm allowed to, I mean, no, your saving is done. Now it's Shabbat for you. That will determine how truthful you are about Avodat Hashem. Your willingness to do, your willingness to do how, and your willingness as well to stop. Because that's what God told you. So establishing and building the Mishkan and the dwelling of the Shekhinah in it among Am Yisrael were the sign that the chet of the Egel was nislachu mitkaper. There was a kapara, it was an atoned for, and it was forgiven, right? In Chet HaEgel, pay attention, it says, Vayikhal ha'am al ha'aron. The people, Vayikhal ha'am al ha'aron. They gathered on Aharon, themselves by themselves. And in our parasha it says, Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. And Moshe gathered the people. More than that, it says, on the Egel it says the Erev Rav, Ele Elokecha Israel. This is your God, Israel. And in our parasha it says, Ele hadevarim asher tziva Hashem, midah keneged midah, a measure against a measure to fix whatever was blemished. So is to us. If we were chote or we stumbled on something, we need to fix it with the same measure. So if your arrogance caused you to do an averah, now you gotta work as hard as you can the other way to become humble. And we see the concept very much so in Halachot Shabbat. If a person violated Shabbat and he, for example, cooked a dish on Shabbat, right? How long would it be asur? as long as it took him to cook after Shabbat. Or for him, if he did it on purpose, forever. However, for the rest of the people, as long as it took to cook it on Shabbat, a measure against a measure. You couldn't wait to do so on Shabbat, okay, so now you're going to wait for it. Hey, you can eat it whenever you want, but you should know that you're eating an Averah. Everything is a measure against a measure. If you mevatel Torah, you can make it up. If you mevatel Torah, you can make it up because you don't know how much time you have left. Think about that. You need a battery, son? Yeah. Hurry up. So therefore, more than that, the Orach Chaim says, it says that a person who is Oved Avodah Zarah, a person who did idol worshipping, Ki'ilu Avar Al Kol HaTorah Kula, as he violated the whole entire Torah. Now, Am Yisrael needs to fix all the Taryag mitzvot. How do you do that? Very simple. Keeping Shabbat. Why? Ki kol hashomer Shabbat ki'ilu kiyem et kol haTorah kula. Now you might understand the concept why a person who keeps Shabbat, that keeps the whole entire Torah. And it says, Kol hameshamer Shabbat ki'ilchato. If a person was keeping Shabbat appropriately, the way it was prescribed, Afilu oved avodah zara kedor enosh, even if he did avodah zara as the generation of Enosh, mochalilo, he's been forgiven. That's in Shabbat, Daf Tetzai. Let me just change the battery here. Connected one to another. They're really connected. And we know that. Now we're going to go a little bit. There was halacha. Now we're going to go a little bit to Kabbalah. You like Kabbalah, Ari? Anybody wants to fly in carpets? I'll give you lessons later. I am? No, Afghani, they have good carpets. Anyway, there are three things that are connected, that are really connected and interlocked with one another. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Oraita, Israel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Torah in Israel. So there, and we know that there are 5 different levels for the Neshama, right? Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah. But we're going to deal with the first 3. We'll leave the 2 other ones to some other happier occasion. The Rebbe from Rozin, the Rozner Rebbe, says that the Neshama represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because the Neshama is what we call Chelek Eloah Mimal, apart from a heaven above, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the heavenly component in us. The Nefesh is Pchinat Ha'adam HaYisraeli. The Nefesh is human, all earthy and materialistic. And the Ruach is the Torah. The Ruach of the Torah connects between the Nefesh and the Neshama, and between the Neshama to the Nefesh. Connects between HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Am Yisrael. I don't care what you say. However, if you don't keep and learn, or learn and keep and learn, because you need to learn in order to keep, but when you start keeping, you have to learn more. Learn, keep, and learn. If you don't do that, and you tell me that you are okay with the guy up there, first I'm going to tell you there's no guy up there, and I tell you, you don't know what you're saying. You're disconnected. The component which connects us, humans, to God is the Torah, not some weed that you smoked. Or mushroom that you swallowed. Or some other imaginary stuff. You have to learn Torah. If you're going to tell me that you believe in God, but you never learn Torah, if you believe in God and you don't keep Shabbat, that's an oxymoron. How could you believe in God and you don't keep Shabbat? He told you to keep Shabbat. Okay? And we need to understand that a person that wants to connect with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, a person that wants to connect with true spirituality, has to do so only through the Torah, because that's the only way which is going to connect him to God. When you're going to say that you can connect to God without the Torah, it's like having a table with 2 legs. The minimum amount of legs you need for a table is 3. You can't have a table with 2 legs. You need something in the middle. And in Shabbat, this is the true revelation, the Galut Shlema, true revelation of the Neshama. That's what we call Neshama Yetera. Lo Nefesh Yetera, Lo Ruach Yetera, Neshama Yetera. During the Chol, during weekdays, we have a small portion of the Neshama. With the Shabbat, which is the Ikar Tosefet, that's where we get the full Neshama. We get the full portion of that. That's why it's very difficult to understand. I mean, once you do, you might not, to understand what damage do we do on Shabbat when we get the Neshama and we actually desecrate it on nonsense, on being drunk, on fighting, on power. I don't believe you. You understand what you're doing. Maybe you're a fool, but you don't understand, because if you would really understand what's going on there, Shabbat for you would be me'ena olam haba, like a part of the other world. You would not fight, you would not get angry, because you can't get angry on olam haba. You can't do that. So I think there's something wrong with your emunah. And in other words, what we said previously, that our awareness during the weekdays needs to have an awareness of preparation, of preparing, of preparing for what? Preparing for Shabbat, of connecting all the issues, the mundane issues of the days to the Shabbat. We need to understand that this is a tremendous thing. If you don't, it's missing. It's lopsided. It's not harmonious. The avodah ruchani, the spiritual work of understanding that, preparing the kelim, preparing the vessels for the neshama itself. During the weekdays, you are preparing the vessel to be able to pour in the neshama yetera, the abundance, to will be full, so you will be charged. But when you are doing melacha on Shabbat, or desecrating the Shabbat, everything that you made, all the vessels that you made are broken now, or inappropriate. You can't fill them up. You close so I'm going to ask you, at what point you're going to start digging for a well to get water to fill up all those vessels? It's empty. And we understand also that once we do so, we actually get the light of the neshama that shines in us. It shines in you. And that's like the menorah. Of course, there is a connection, a correlation between the objects of the Mishkan, as we said previously, but there's more than that, to all the parts that we have inside of us, and the parts of the soul. We remember we talked about the shemen of the Torah with the light of the menorah that represents, and so on and so forth. These are all things for you inside as well. If there's no light, there's darkness. If there's darkness, you're going to stumble. In other words, if there's no Torah, which is the oil, to shine the menorah in your life, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. Am Israel, over there, of course, we know there were big neshamot, very high neshamot. But when they came of Mitzrayim, they were wrapped with many klipot, with many husks. The light of the neshamot could not shine. They were covered. We too are covered with material desires that have gone out of control. Out of control. So much that at the time they couldn't tell the difference between them and the Egyptians. And the same thing here today. Sometimes you can't tell between a Jew and a Gentile. They were there of the Avodah Zarah, and they were of the Avodah Zarah. When they came from Mitzrayim, slowly, the husks started to break, the klipot broke, and slowly, the light came out, and the neshamot became more revealed, more open. But there was lights with no vessels. They didn't have the appropriate vessels in order to receive and to hold within themselves such great and awesome spiritual lights. Therefore, the Mekubalim says immediately after the Torah, they made the egel. It was too overwhelming for them. They saw Kadosh Baruch Hu, it was too overwhelming for them. They failed. It's the same thing like a guy goes to yeshiva, he learns Torah, his eyes opened up, all of a sudden, he's going out now to learn to steigen 17 hours a day before he never opened the book. And he'll tell Habibi, le'at, you have to build your endurance for that, slowly. But no, they go in and then they burn and then they don't keep anything again. We've seen it all the time. And then they come, Rabbi, kid, you have some glue, piss me together. I'm falling apart. I've seen this all the time. So, therefore the Mekubalim says, they said, let's build the egel. The Erev Rav came and said to us, hey guys, you don't have vessels. Let's make a vessel. Let's make a vessel that will hold all the lights. And of course there's a little bit of some kind of a sense, theoretically, not God forbid that we encourage that, we don't support that, of building the egel. But let's look at what they did. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in order to make good, to be kind to his creation. So he created the world as a vehicle to give us the good, to give us the abundance. And there is Shefa Ruchani, spiritual abundance. And there is a rule. And it goes like this. It's like a little of a tongue twister. Hashefa shofea keshehu mashpia. The abundance comes in great quantities only when it makes a difference. Okay? What does it mean? When the shefa, the abundance stops, it's only because the man stopped it. The person stopped it. If something had happened to you, and Chazal said to us, if you see that Yisurim ba'im alecha, start looking, take an inventory of things that you do. Maybe you did bitul Torah, maybe your actions are not good, maybe this, maybe that. All of a sudden, a person doesn't suffer. There is a reason for that. The reason is you. You brought it on yourself. Hashefa shofea keshehu mashpia. In other words, when something bad happens to you, it's because of you. And it seems to us that we have a lot of abundance, right? We all have big houses, or maybe we want to become millionaires. Who doesn't want to? By the way, is this your tefillin? Yes. Who doesn't want to become a millionaire, right? But why stop at a millionaire? Let's become multi-millionaire. Maybe we're going to become billionaires. But then it stops. All of a sudden you realize you have all this money. But en ta'anug, there's no pleasure in that. It becomes empty. Empty. As I told you before, he says in Masechet Zvachim, en aniyut b'mkom osher. There's no poorness, poverty in a place of riches, of course. But we're not talking about money, we're talking about spiritual happiness. Spiritual wellness, wealth. When you are spiritually wealthy, you're not poor. You feel that you have everything. You understand that everything is great, you don't need more. But when you are poor spiritually, you have a desire to buy more, you want more and more and more and more, and it's never enough. So if you see that there's this uncontrolled need in you to buy, a shopaholic, you want a bigger house, you want a bigger car, there's nothing wrong with your house, there's nothing wrong with your car. You know that spiritually there's something wrong with you. There is a spiritual hole inside of you that everything drains through it. You have to understand that. You have to stop wanting more. And the reason why you want more and it's never enough, because spiritually we are drained. So let's fix it. So when you have a lot and you feel empty, there's no abundance in that, Rabotai. There's no abundance at all. Abundance, Shefa, is not called that we have a lot of gold. The Gemara calls something like this, it does it beautifully. It calls it a mouse or a rat that sleeps on the gold and it goes to rest on coins. It's the same thing for us. You have a lot. You have gold, you have a lot. But it's not comfortable for you. You're going to sleep on a rock. You have a bed, it's not comfortable. You're looking for something else. Look at how much we have, Baruch Hashem. Look how lucky we are. You think that you're going to have a new car. You bought yourself a beautiful new car. But all of a sudden it's not good. You bought yourself, I don't know, a Dodge Rebel. And all of a sudden it's not good, you want a Raptor. And all of a sudden it's not good, you want... What's wrong with that? It's your imagination. You're captive in your imagination. You're spiritually drained. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for us to have tremendous pleasure. Ta'anug, to be mitaneg. Oneg. Right? He wants us to have a lot of pleasure. He wants us to receive the shefa, to receive the abundance. And that is the kli. A person enjoys his food when he has a plate, when he has a vessel. I'm going to tell you. Let's say, for example, I make a steak for you, right? I'll give you here, Eitan, you want a steak? Oh, where's the other Eitan, by the way? You want a steak? Here, take the steak. Go like this. You don't eat the steak. Take about it. My dog. Give it to me on a nice, warm plate. You know, the plate isn't warm, sizzling. A little potatoes on the side, some greens here. You know, maybe plate. I'm a person. I need the kli to enjoy. I might have a lot, but if I don't have the kli, it's not good. Imagine a big cowboy steak like this. I don't like meat, right? You know that, but never mind. A big cowboy steak like this. I also give you some beans. Say, here, guys, go like this. Here, beans and this, all like this. You know, what's the one? Am I in the ghetto? What do you serve me like this? I'm in prison. Even in prison, they give you a tray. You need an appropriate kli, and it will be the same thing. If I'm going to give it to you on a paper plate, it's still not going to be the same. If I give you on a nice Rosenthal plate. You see how much the kli, the vessel, helps you enjoy the abundance. So if you don't have the kli, you don't have the abundance, is nothing. It becomes a curse. Imagine, again, eating a steak with beans and greens and potatoes all in your hand like this. You say, this is horrible. The same thing to your neshama. You need to fix your kli in order to enjoy it. The kli is receiving, and that's the willingness to receive. You have to have the willingness to receive. In other words, you need to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You need to want it. The whole essence of creation is that we need to work. We need to do Avodat Hashem whenever we can, and we need to work hard on it. And we need to understand that working hard, to work hard, the main way to work of a person is not the sweat that you sweat. Oh, I work hard, I'm sweating hard. But it's going against his nature. To go against his other motives that bring him down. He needs to take this and take this nature and reverse it like a plane. I'm sure all of you flew a plane. Imagine a plane comes with full throttle to a landing. Well, he almost does. But after he lands, he thrusts the whole entire engine. He takes because what gives the plane the lift? The thrust of the engine. But then when it lands, in order to stop it and to bring us to safety, he needs to use all the power of the engines to reverse the engines to actually stop it. So are we. We need to take the urges that we have, and don't kill them. Reverse the direction to something positive against your nature. You gain tremendous strength by this because you realize that you are a boss of your own life. You are the boss. That's why the Torah hates the Maaseh Onenut. Hates it. Because it's one of the acts of utmost lack of control. Masturbation, darling, over there. Onenut. The ultimate act of lack of control. Immediate gratification, out of control. Torah says, Habibi, that's a bad thing. Leave the Zera, the Malachim, I'm talking about this. I'm talking from a cognitive point of view. It is very bad for you. Because it teaches you to be impulsive and not responsible. It teaches you how to lose control over yourself, not to gain control over yourself. You need to understand that a person who is Mekayem, Ubayom HaShviyeh Lachem Kodesh, on the 7th day is going to be holy. The Melacha that you did all 6 days becomes Melechet Shamayim. All that you did 6 days becomes Melechet Shamayim, which is a tremendous thing. As much as a person on the 7th day stops doing the Mishkan because HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell them, by this he's showing his emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When he doesn't, he's showing that he's doing it not for Hashem, he's doing it for himself. So if you work for 6 days on Shabbat, you stopped, even the 6 days becomes Melechet Shamayim. If you work for 6 days on Shabbat, you didn't stop, all what you were doing is you're building an altar for idols. Pleased to meet you, you're the idol of yourself. The Ari tells us in Sefer Etz Chaim, Da ki terem shene'etzlu hanetzlaim v'nivreu hanivraim, before there was any creation in the world, big or small, haya or elyon pashut memale et kol hametziut. There was this great spiritual light that filled up reality. Keshe'ala birtzono hapashut, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu had this idea to create the world, ולהאציל הנאצלים, and to bestow upon us His greatness, להוציא לאור שלמות פעולותיו, to actually execute the perfections of His actions, שמותיו וכינוייו, His names and so on and so forth, צמצם עצמו, He condensed Himself. ואחר כך המשיך קו של אור בתוך החלל הפנוי. And from that, in the open space that was created, he had a thread of light. The one like this, by the way, if you want to look, it's in Eretz Chaim, Perek Aleph. This is, by the way, everything in the universe on the same order. And this is why we're going to mention it here. The reason is, because when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to build the Mishkan, there was also according to this, right? The light that, of course, the light that filled up the whole creation, and then the condensation, the tzimtzum, the restricting. The light that filled up the whole entire world was the light of Matan Torah. The restriction, to our great sorrow, was the act of the Egel. There was darkness after the Egel. The Mishkan is the light, the thread of light that goes between two Batei Aaron, between the two parts of the Aaron. From there comes the internal light to all creations. As it says, "V'noadeti lach sham v'dibarti itach," and I would reveal myself to you there, and I would speak to you from there. Me'ala kaporet miben shnei akrovim, between the two cherubs, going like this to one another. Indiana Jones style, if you haven't seen that. Asher al aron ha'edut, et kol asher atzaveh otcha lebnei Yisrael yisomder. And every single day, in everything, there is a new creation, and the light comes about. When I tell you time and time again that every day is the first and last day of your existence, and you should treat it like that, I really mean it. When I tell you to celebrate the moment, is celebrate the moment. Because the only thing that there is the present. That's why it's very difficult for some people to go to sleep. Not because they have insomnia, because they understand that the present is here. And I need to do things. I don't want to sleep. I'm wasting my time sleeping. The Yeshanei Afar, sleep in the grave. Now it's time to action. If I could figure out a way that I didn't have to go to sleep, I won't go to sleep, because there's so many things I want to do. So many things I want to learn. So many things I want to accomplish. So it's a shame to waste it, 5 hours in sleep. So it's a shame. Yeah. I really mean that. You have no idea how much I accomplished when I used to sleep 4 hours a night. That was amazing. I was in heaven. Oh, sleeping? That's why I don't understand people who like to sleep until 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't understand that. That shows a spiritual blemish. And everybody, this is our hashpa'ah that we have to do. We have to be mashpia on everybody. We have to help everyone, and everybody according to his abilities and his powers. And of course, we spoke previously about the process in which Bnei Israel had gone through in the beginning of Sefer Shemot. But this is a process that each and every one of us goes throughout life. A process that needs emunah. Emunah, believe in renewal, in itchadshut, in renewal. HaMechadesh betuvo bechol yom tamid maaseh bereshit ki leolam chasdo. He who renews every single day the acts of Genesis, the acts of creation, in his great kindness. This is not just words in the Siddur. These are concepts in which you should live by. Appreciate what you have now and cherish it. So that process, understanding that, in renewal of creation, that is a tremendous source of power. And we're going to all have the moments of restriction and condensation in our lives, moments of darkness, moments of hardship. However, we should know that the emunah and renewal is going to be a source of joy and thanking and appreciation in all moment. Even if you understand that the process of spreading the light, right? We need to understand that after every restriction, there is a process of expansion. That's the same thing in Purim. There was great darkness. After every great darkness that comes upon the Jews, there is a great act of chesed, of kindness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there is tremendous salvation. Always. It's the process that is in the universe. The power of this parasha gives us the ability to do Vayakhel. Vayakhel mishum kehila, to establish, and we need to understand that they appreciate the kehilot, the communities. Vayakhel Moshe, together Moshe as well, also to be gathered in a kehillah when the environment outside, the general environment, is restricting you coming in, and that what gives us the power. But not only as a general, also as individuals to ourselves, to gather all the powers, the internal powers that we have around the Kedusha, around holiness, around the wonderful gift in which we received, which is the Shabbat. And in Shabbat, a person leaves all his mundane business and needs to act like his business is done, his business is complete, nothing to worry about. Am Yisrael gathers in shuls to hear Divrei Torah on Shabbat, to connect to the light. That's why it's important to stop with all the shenanigans that happens in shul. These are lo shualim ktanim mechablim kramenu. These are dinosaurs who stumble upon ourselves and our shuls and destroys everything for us. A person comes to shul, gathers to hear Divrei Torah, connect to the light, understand that everything comes from Hashem. When he prays, what do you say before you start praying? Hashem, I want to pray, but you're going to open my mouth because even my praises come from you. Hashem sfatai tiftach. Understand that everything comes from Hashem. The same thing at home. A person is a family, gathers his family around this table, around the Shabbat table. So is a person should gather all his internal abilities, his koach, inside the point of him, the nekudah, the point inside of him, which is the mishkan, which is the dwelling of his neshama, to gather it, to bring about the light that would help him work in the darkness of life. Shabbat Shalom.